Well, hello Standard 8ers. Um, Welcome to yet another episode of history, and I know that history tends to be a bit boring for most of us, and even I found it boring at times. But then, if we just try to understand history and not just start learning of history, history is not about marks. I guess none of the subjects are about marks. All the subjects are about learning, and whatever we are learning, whatever we learn, that is what stays with us throughout our life, and that is what actually helps us at times in our lives. Now, when we are talking of history, and when we are talking of revolutions, when we are talking of independence, when we are talking of republics, it is pertinent, or it is important for all of us to know what these things are, where did these ideas come from, and what were the implications and what were the impacts of so many different or so many different things which happened throughout history. Many may question, why do we study history? Once again, let me just tell you all, we study history not for the sake of studying. We study history not just for learning and getting marks, but we study history so as to know what or why the problems which we are having today in our present world, why are those problems even there? Like, if you just if you come to school, or suppose I come to school or I come to class with a broken hand, and if I ask you all, or if you sorry, you all will be asking me, sir, how did you break your hand? And if I forget my history, if I forget the past, if I forget what had happened to me maybe a week ago or a month ago or a few days ago, I won't be able to answer you all. Neither will you all get to know what the answer was, or what the reason was, why I was coming, or why I came to the class with a plaster in my hand. But if I knew my history, if I knew whatever that had happened to me, and if I knew what was the past, or what happened to me in the past few days or the past few weeks, I will be able to tell you all how this hand came to be broken and why I am coming to you all with a plaster in my hand. So this was just a simple analogy, or a simple example kind of sort of thing, so as to tell you also, as to make you all understand that it is important for us to know what had happened in the past, so as to know why the problems which are existing in our present day world, or in our present day country, or in our present day anything, why those problems are existing because of the events which had happened in the past. So if we need to find solutions, we need to find what caused these problems in the first place. You cannot find a solution without knowing what caused the problem. So trying to understand the problem means trying to study history. That is why history, studying of history, is very, very important. And let us just continue with what we were doing. But before that, let me just ask you all, and if how are you all? How is everyone at home? And before you all ask me, let me just answer. I'm doing fine. Questions about dark circles under the eyes, those things, well, that is a permanent part of life, I guess. Moving ahead, we had studied about some parts or some things about the American Revolution. We hadn't started the American Revolution. We are not yet fighting. But then we are talking about the causes, and we had learned that the mother country, that was England, or Great Britain at that time. So the mother country, England, was using American colonies just for its own benefit, and the mother country, England, was not passing on those benefits of taxation, or the benefits of so much of profit which it was making by trading, or by taking up the goods which were being produced in the American colonies. Those benefits were not being passed on to the Americans, and the Americans were being shorthanded, or the Americans were being charged a lot, were being taxed a lot. None of the facilities which were there in the British, or which the Britishers were enjoying in England, were not available to the Americans over here. The Americans did not have their voice in the British Parliament, and it was the British Parliament which was making the laws on the American, or on the Americans. So there was, or the lawmaking body was not having any member of the American colonies. This was one of the most important point on which the Americans wanted some change. They had already raised the slogan, no taxation without representation. But then the Britishers, or the mother country, was not ready to listen, because they knew that Great Britain is a very huge and a very powerful nation, and I mean not a very huge nation geographically, but it was having so many different colonies, so it had access to so much of resources and people. That is why the Great Britain was in a sort of a comfortable position, or so it thought, and it knew that the Americans will not be able to do anything much. So what happened was, there was the Boston Tea Party, which we had discussed, and then in 1774 the members or the representatives of the 13 colonies, so 13 colonies had been set up. There was the first colony, which was Virginia, and after that 12 more colonies which had been set up. So the representatives of those 13 colonies met in a city called Philadelphia, and in Philadelphia it was 1774. They asked the then King of England, or the then King of Great Britain, to remove some of the taxes, so as to listen to their demands and so as to bring in some benefit for the Americans. But this was something which the British Crown or the British King understood, or the British King took this demand or took these demands as something of that of a mutiny, or what is a mutiny? Mutiny means some kind of a revolt. So the British King or the King of Great Britain, he thought that the Americans were revolting against him and against the mother country. So he sent his forces. Now this king which we are talking about, the British King, was King George III, and he sent his troops. Troops meaning he sent his army, and the Americans, they started preparing for a fight. Now once again, on the 4th of July in 1776, this date is important, the 4th of July. It was on the 4th of July that the Philadelphia Convention met, and there was a convention of those representatives from the 13 colonies. It was yet again which happened in Philadelphia, the city, in which they had already met once in 1774. So they met again once again on the 4th of July in 1776, and it was on this day that they signed the Declaration of Independence. They declared themselves to be independent. The 13 colonies declared themselves to be independent from the mother country, and they were ready to fight for their independence. Now they severed all ties, or they removed all the ties or all the connection which they had, and from that moment onwards the war began. This Philadelphia Convention, or the Declaration of Independence, it was drafted by Thomas Jefferson. These the names Thomas Jefferson, the Philadelphia Convention, the Declaration of Independence, and also the date 4th of July 1776 is very, very important. America still celebrates the 4th of July as its independence, or as its Independence Day. Now the American forces were led by George Washington, and you all know that the capital of America, or the United States of America, is called Washington DC, and it is named after the American general George Washington, who also happened to become the first president of the United States. The war ended in 1781, and the Americans emerged victorious. The Americans emerged victorious also because the French had supported the Americans over here. The French supported the Americans over here because France did not want England to have so much control over America and its resources. France did not want to see England become rich, and England was getting very rich, or was getting lots of taxes and also money from the American colonies, from the trade which happened through the American colonies. So the French wanted to deprive the British of this large amount of profit which they were making. So the French, I had told you all once, the French always had a historical enmity with Great Britain or England. So France supported America in this war, and with the support of France, and also with their own courage and bravery, they won the war for themselves. It was in 1783 that the British government and the representatives of the colonies, they met in Paris, and they signed the Treaty of Paris, according to which Britain recognized the independence of all the 13 colonies of America. That is, Britain now formally accepted that the American colonies are totally independent and they are free to make their own decisions. Now America, or those 13 colonies, did not become separate countries. Those 13 colonies came together and they signed a treaty which said that they will be together, and it was by that treaty that they are still together. This is why it is called the United States of America. United because they came together back in 1783. And the states, those 13 states, it was initially 13 states. United States now has more, 50 states, including Hawaii. So it is the United States of America, and United States of America became a republic. What is a republic actually? Republic is a kind of government in which people are the or people wield or people have the absolute power. That is, the citizens of the country have the absolute power. They are the ones who are actually ruling the country through their representatives, and there is no such policy of that of having or there is no such king or a queen, or there is no hereditary rulership or hereditary position given to anyone. What does hereditary mean? Hereditary means when the son of a king becomes a king, and then again the son of the next king becomes the king. So that is something which, or a position which keeps on continuing in the same family. That is called hereditary. So a republic is that kind of government in which there is no hereditary position. India is a republic, but then if we still talk of England, England still has the system, or it still has the position of the king and the queen. So that is a hereditary position. That is why England is still a monarchical, or somewhere it is a monarchical system of government. But India, America, these are republics. Now, I hope till this part it was clear. And it is said that America, or it is not said, America set up its own democracy. That is why America is called the oldest democracy in the world. What is a democracy? Democracy, as defined by Abraham Lincoln, states that it's the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Which means it is a government which will be working for the people, which is elected by the people, and which belongs to all the people. So that is a democracy. Anyone can become the president or the prime minister of that country. That is a democracy. All the people, all the citizens have or people above the age of 18 or some particular age, they have the right to vote and select their own representatives who will be ruling over them. So this is a democracy, and America is the oldest democracy in the world, whereas India happens to be the largest democracy of the world, because India being the second having the second largest population on earth, but that China, that is the first or the largest population on earth, is not a democracy. So India is a democracy with so much population. That is why India is called the largest democracy, whereas America is the first democracy or the oldest democracy of the world. Now, while we are talking of the revolution, there is one more revolution which changed the entire history of the world, and this revolution brought in a few very important things. The French Revolution brought about a change in the society and a change in the thinking of the people, and it actually gave people some ray of light, some ray of hope, so as to think in the terms of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, these were the three things these three things were raised as the battle cry, or these were the slogans which were raised by the French. And this French Revolution happened in 1789. And this French Revolution inspired so many other incidences in history. That is why I keep on, even in the assignments, I had given you all a question. Which are some of the most defining moments in the history? I guess it was there in the summer vacation thing. Which are some of the most defining moments in history? And I guess many did start thinking this is something out of the syllabus or this and that. Why do we even have to, or why do we have to restrict studies to syllabus only? We just need to think. And this answer or this question which I had asked, it just said what are some of the things, or what are some of the incidences in history which are actually important or which change the course of the world. Very easy if you do not want to think much. First can be the discovery of or the settlement of humans. Humans were first nomads, and later on gradually they started settling down. So this one moment in history, that settling down of humans, is a very important thing, because had not the humans settled down, we would not have had civilizations. Civilizations can only occur or only happen if people settle down in a place. And next, if we are talking another incident, maybe the discovery of fire, because had not fire been there, we would not have been able to, or the early humans would not have been able to live so freely, and they would have lived in fear of wild animals and so many other different things. So the civilization may not have come up that good, or civilization may not have come up at all without fire. With fire we could do so many things. We could make weapons, we could start cooking, we had so many different uses of fire. And another such incident in history, well, the invention of wheel. Had not wheels been there, or had not wheels been invented, forget about riding a bicycle or moving around in your scooter, bike, scooty, or in the car, or even the trains moving, or even a flight or a plane, because a plane has to wheel on or it requires the wheel so as to move on the runway. So these three things, there are so many things which you will be finding in history which did change the face of the world, and which made humanity or made the earth a better place to live in. Now the French Revolution was one such thing. Let me just start with the causes of the French Revolution. When we talk of the political causes, France at that time was not a democracy. France during the French Revolution, or before the French Revolution, France was autocracy, and France was a monarchy. There was a hereditary ruler, and the ruler who was ruling France at that time was King Louis XVI. King Louis XVI ruled, or he was a very weak ruler, and his wife Mary Antoinette, she was the one who was actually ruling upon. And both of these rulers, they did not care about people. And whenever there is any such government, whenever there is any such ruler, whenever there is anyone who is holding some power, who does not care about the people who are working below them, or who are below them, or who are looking up to them, then there will be chaos, there will be some kind of an anger, and that anger may someday come up or burst out as a revolution. This was something which happened in France also. Mary Antoinette and Louis XVI, they were not very popular rulers. They did not care much for the people, they did not care much for the welfare of the people. They ruled as if they had been placed on that throne by earth. Well, most of the rulers, most of the monarchs, most of the kings and queens in history did say this, that they had been put on the throne, or they have been blessed by God themselves, and that they are the representatives of God on earth. This was actually required so as to instill a fear amongst people, and also to instill a sense of respect amongst people. When you say that someone is a representative of God, then people will automatically start respecting him or her, or start fearing him or her, so as not to anger God, or so as not to invite God's wrath. That is why King Louis XVI over here, Mary Antoinette, they ruled as if they were the ones who have been put on the throne by God himself, and they ruled as such, and they did not care much for the people. This caused a lot of anger amongst the people. And next we have one other reason, is that there was a lot of corruption. There was a lot of problems, or lots of problems were being faced by the normal people, or by the bourgeois class of people. Who are the bourgeois? They are nothing but the middle class and the people below the middle class. So these people, the normal people, they could not speak anything against the state. They could not speak anything at all which angered the state. They would be taken into prison, they would be tortured, they would be killed, and all this without any reason. And they would be arrested without any reason and put into the Bastille. Bastille was the state prison. And this Bastille, there is an incident, the storming of the Bastille. Storming of the Bastille, like we had in the American Revolution, there was the Boston Tea Party which sparked off the American Revolution. This storming of the Bastille sparked the French Revolution. When we talk of the Revolution of 1857 in India, it was the introduction of the Enfield rifles, which we will be doing later on in the coming chapters. This introduction of the Enfield rifle became the spark, or became the reason why the Indians, they revolted against the Britishers. So I guess the political causes of the French, or why the political causes, or what were the political causes which caused the French Revolution, is somewhat clear to you. We'll be doing in detail more on this and the remaining parts of the chapter in the next video. Up till then, please stay happy, be happy, keep smiling, and keep yourself occupied with something which actually which does give you some kind of happiness, and does bring, or does improve yourself, or does make you a better human being. Till then, take care and goodbye.